Welcome to another edition of the Litigation Psychology Podcast, brought to you by Courtroom Sciences. Dr. Bill Kanasky here. Dog days of summer. It's terrible. And my air condition, it's the middle of summer. Air conditioning takes a dump on me. So right at about 3 o'clock, thankfully it's only my upstairs air conditioner, but this is where the podcast studio's at. It'll be like 85 degrees up here in a couple hours. So I gotta crank this out now. How's everybody doing? Got a we're gonna talk more about jury selection and voir dire today, because there's an important topic everybody's kind of misinterpreting. Gotta clear something up. But let me tell you a story. And maybe this attorney, I'm supposed to talk to him this week. Maybe he'll come on he may come on the podcast and share his story. So I get a random direct message in my LinkedIn. And the only thing I'm going to tell you, because I'm not sure he's going to agree to come on, he's a defense attorney in California. And he sends me a direct message on LinkedIn. And he says, Bill, we just started a big case out here in California. And now keep in mind, I don't know this individual. I've never met this individual. Apparently they follow me on LinkedIn. That's great. And he said essentially that they abandoned their traditional voir dire plan for this case. They listened to my 4-part series on advanced psychological voir dire, and they implemented that during the jury selection process for this case. He said it was amazing. He said that it was unlike anything they've ever done before. They said they felt great about it. It set the tone. They linked it to their opening. And then like every 10 or 12 days, he would send me this trial went on for like 9 weeks. Crazy. And he keeps sending me messages on how things were going. So he sends me a message a few days ago. And he says, Bill, we got a full defense verdict. And in the message, essentially said he totally believed it was because the way they did voir dire and jury selection, how they used the advanced voir dire questions, voir dire, right? Guess it depends on where you're from. Use the advanced questions like I outlined in the 4-part series, and said it was a total game changer. So that's a great story. That's awesome. Now keep in mind, I didn't work on the case. I don't know this person. He sent me a message. We're supposed to have a phone call this week. I want to hear all about this case. But that's the whole point of this. That's why I'm doing this. Okay? You can't have a jury consultant just sitting with you at every single trial. Number one. That's impractical. Number two, if you're not asking the right questions, I don't care what consultant you have. You got to have the right game plan, the right blueprint. That's what's most important. Not some schmuck jury consultant. What are they going to do? Do they have a crystal ball? You got to have the right plan. You got to plant the right seeds. You got to ask the right questions. That 4-part series came out maybe a month or two ago. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. It's 4 parts. And it breaks down the 4 sections of voir dire questions. They're advanced psychological questions to do various things. Because that's really where you have to up your game. If you're going to trial, you can't screw that part up. You can't do it. And so many people do. And then don't forget, that your voir dire needs to be surgically connected to your opening. Very few people do this or know how to do this. So what do? I come on the podcast, I tell you how to do it. I write papers, tell you how to do it. It's a good resources. So that's a very good positive story. It's always good to see a big win. Do I have a rant for today? Yes, I have a rant before I start jumping into, because I got some more voir dire issues to cover. My rant today, these neck pillows that people travel on the airplane with, God, it's a bad look. Okay? If you're taking a 2-hour flight and you walk on the plane with a neck pillow, I know, I think I just lost a little respect for you. But here's where the respect is actually lost, is no one knows how to wear them the right way. They wear them backwards. Everybody comes on the neck pillow, right? They have the open part in the front. Not how to wear it. The open part needs to be in the back, so it keeps your head up straight. And no matter what direction your head's going to go, because your head ain't going back, you got the seat. The seat's behind you. The headrest is behind you. The open part goes on the back. But no, everybody has the open part in the front. Then you fall asleep and your head goes straight forward. No support. Okay, so if you're going to wear, now listen, if you're taking the 6-hour flight from Orlando to Seattle or from LaGuardia to LAX, okay. You want to bring your neck pillow, I guess that's okay. But for crying out loud, at least, I mean, wear the neck pillow the right way. It's embarrassing. I've never owned a neck pillow. I'm not, no. Nope. Not going to happen. Okay, I had to get that rant out of the way. But if you're going to at least wear it the right way. Get the most benefit out of it. It still looks silly. Come on. All right, let's jump into more jury selection tactics here. So now this is a really complicated topic. It's really confusing. I have a paper in the works on this to break this down. May have to do a couple podcasts on this, but we always talk about what's predictive of jury decision making, right? And you want to tap into this during voir dire. And what I've told you over and over and over for the last 5 years, it's belief systems and attitudes are really, really important. Okay? Actually more important than experiences. Remember, people get over bad experiences. Unless you're like me, I hold a grudge. You have to find those people. But a lot of people get over bad experiences and don't have that carry over. Or you're like me, and you get bad service at a restaurant, and then you boycott it for 15 years. Because that's what I do. That's pretty easy to pick up on. You ask those questions. You ever have a bad experience with a company or a restaurant or whatever? Did you boycott? Did you ever go back? How did it end? Did you move on? That's how you go through the experiences questions, right? So you have, med mal cases, trucking cases. You ever have a bad experience with a hospital or a doctor or a nurse? Well, just because someone says yes doesn't mean they're a bad juror. You have to dig deeper, right? Do you ever have a close call with a big truck on the interstate? Scared you shitless? Well, just because someone says yes doesn't mean they're anti-trucking. Okay? You gotta dig deeper. How do you feel now? You still mad about that? You still scared about that? That still bother you? Or maybe it bothered you for a week and then you went on with your life. Okay? That's the whole experiences thing. Very important questions. Not where the gold's at. The gold's at's going to be belief systems and then attitudes related to those beliefs. Now, this is where people, again, it's very difficult. Everybody thinks they know what this stuff is. You don't. So let's kind of define this, right? So, beliefs. Beliefs are what you think. Attitudes are what you feel. Let me say that again. Beliefs are what you think. It's a cognitive concept. Attitudes are how you feel. It's emotional. We have to, there's a very clear distinction here, and these often get confused. Okay? So, again, beliefs are cognitive, attitudes are emotional. So let's take an example. If you ask the question in Voir, raise your hand if you think that corporations always put money, profit, revenue, they always put that first. Raise your hand if you think that. That's a belief system. There's nothing emotional about that. So just because someone raises their hands to that doesn't really mean anything. It's the follow-up question. So you always start with beliefs, then you follow up with attitudes. That's the sequence here. Belief first, then attitude. Okay? So that's your baseline belief system questions. Corporations exist to make money. It's their top priority. A bunch of people are going to raise their hands. The follow-up question, right, is how do you feel about that? One juror may say, well, you know what? I mean, that's just capitalism. I've owned a business. Of course I want to make money. Hey, as long as they follow the law and they want to make money, that's how the system works. I'm okay with it. So there's an example of a juror that believes, they think corporations are out to make money first and foremost above everything else, but their attitude towards it is relatively positive. They're okay with it. Then the next juror may respond, because remember, how do you feel about it? The word feel means attitude. Is say, well, that's why I don't trust corporations. They'll do anything to protect their profits. I don't trust them. Aha. Lack of trust, emotion. That juror is now a risky juror. Here's the key. They both raised their hand to the first question, which was the belief system. Okay? So again, when you're outlining your voir dire, start with the belief system and then follow up with the attitude questions. All right? Beliefs are how you think, which isn't as I just explained, it's not a deal breaker how someone thinks. How they feel is what's going to drive decision making. Okay? And you can do this with any belief, any one of them, profits over safety, right? All that stuff. And separate those two things out. Okay? Here's another example. This is oftentimes where defense counsel gets burned because they don't dig. They don't dig. They take the first answer and they run with it when they have to ask the right follow-up questions. Okay? So for example, if you asked a juror, right, do you believe in personal responsibility? And that juror says, yes, I do. Well, right there, many defense attorneys are like, whew, all right, we've got a good juror here. I'm not gonna ask any more questions. I'm gonna protect that juror. They believe in they think personal responsibility is important. It's a belief. But you got to dig deeper to understand how they feel about that. And there's the blind spot. There is the blind spot. okay? Because attitudes ultimately drive the behavior and decision making of juror, not the beliefs. Let me say that again. The attitudes will ultimately drive the juror's decision making, not the belief system. Okay, their emotions will shape how they interpret the evidence, whether or not they find witnesses to be credible. Okay, so you got to ask the attitude follow-up. So, for example, what if the defense in this case uses the personal responsibility of the plaintiff as one of their defense strategies? How would that make you feel? Would you be okay with that? Would that offend you? Or is that a legit defense? That's the gold, people. That's the gold. That's the follow-up question that often gets ignored. That's the blind spot. Everybody's afraid to ask those questions. But this whole thing about, well, if I ask that question and they're negative, it's gonna poison, it's gonna taint and poison the jury. That's bullshit. Come on. In fact, that's what you want that juror. So now I'm going to tie it all together, right? So belief question first, followed by attitude question. If you get a negative attitude, how they feel, it's negative. That's a really good thing because you've identified a risky juror. The next question is, well, thank you, juror number 5. Who else here feels similar to juror number 5? Just raise your hand. Who's on the same page as juror number 5? And then 3 more hands go up. You've just done some serious work there. That's how you do it. But you see the chain of questions? It's the follow-up questions where everybody fumbles the ball. You're in the red zone. You're in the red zone. And then you fumble the ball because you don't know what follow-up questions to ask. And everybody's scared about asking the questions that are going to identify negative feelings. Well, what do you think you're there doing? You got to find the high-risk jurors. So then find them, be super nice, and then say, who else feels like this? And you get a couple more hands up. Well, juror number 12. You feel the same as juror number 5. Explain to me why. Also build your cause challenge arguments, right? Okay. So as you're writing your voir dire questions and things you want to tap into, outline it how I just described, right? So that's the formula. So let's kind of go over this, right? So if you want to, you always start with the belief. You always start with the belief. Don't just jump to the attitude. The belief questions should always start with the 2 following phrases. Do you think and do you believe? That's how you start those questions. Do you think blah, 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 blah? And then put in the belief system you want to test. Or do you believe that blah, 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 blah? Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, this is the attitude, right? How do you feel about blank, blank, blank? What is your emotional reaction when you hear blank, blank, blank? What emotions come up when you hear blank, blank, blank? That's the attitude. You're tapping into the emotion. That's what's going to be the driver. So you have to remember, this is the key. Many people may have the same belief, but then the underlying attitude could be vastly different. That's where the gold's at. So you got to ask those questions. Does that make sense? So things we're looking for, right? Obviously, any type of negative emotion. But things like in litigation, things like distrust, cynicism, resentment. And by the way, they're not just going to tell you how they feel, they're going to show you. So you kind of got to be a little armchair psychologist. You'll see changes in facial expression, body language, posture. Their tone is going to change. You'll know if somebody's negative. But if you're not asking the right follow-up questions, you're never gonna tap into that. Okay? So here's the issue. These jurors many of these jurors that have the negative attitudes, they may not appear hostile. They may come across as polite, calm, even friendly. Okay? But you got to tap into the emotion. Do they feel negatively about it? Or do they feel relatively positive? Importantly, they may feel indifferent. They don't give a shit either way. Okay? Now, if jurors get stuck and they have problems here's the trick, right? They have a problem articulating their emotions. Make it easy. Give them a multiple choice. So based on this belief system you said you believe in, and they're having trouble, describing how they feel. That's fine. You say, do you have generally positive feelings? Do you have generally negative feelings? Or you kind of just don't care either way? Where on the spectrum do you fall? And let them pick. Because some jurors have difficulty expressing themselves. Some get nervous, right? That's a barrier. Some jurors just won't shut the hell up. I mean, you'll be like, okay, juror number 7, I get it. You don't, you feel really negatively towards trucking companies. Okay, I understand. Others, not so much. They may be nervous. They don't like to talk in public. So make life easy for them. Give them multiple choices, right? Make life easy for them. So, final thoughts on this, okay? Here's the outline again, all right? You want to see what jurors believe. What belief system do they have? Number 1. That is not enough. That's just step 1. If you just ask about beliefs, you're going to miss the gold, which is the emotion, the attitude, and that's what really drives the decision making, right? So what's the next question? Well, the next question's got to be, how do you feel? And you can ask that question in several different ways. You can ask them, how do they feel about that? Leave it wide open. If you got, plenty of time, you may be rushed for time, and you want to give them that multiple choice. Make it easy for the jurors. Make sure that you do those follow-ups that tap into the attitudes. And then here's the kicker. You get somebody that's really negative. Don't be scared of that. Embrace it. Say, thank you. And you look at her. See, this is why I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. See, juror number 3, just let it ride. Thank you, juror number 3. I appreciate your honesty and your openness. Thank you. Now, does anybody else here kind of agree with number 3? You kind of on the same negative wavelength there. A couple hands are going to go up. Look at what you just did. Look at all the time you just saved. Why? You made people comfortable. You normalized the negative. It's okay to be negative. And we've talked about this on the podcast. You tell them up front, hey, it's okay to be it's okay. There's no consequence for expressing a negative opinion. Go ahead. Not going to look bad. You're not going to get in trouble. It's what you're here for. and get these folks to open up, be comfortable, right? That's really, really important stuff. All right. So again, I have a paper coming out on this, but what I see in voir dire, like, so when attorneys send me voir dire scripts, that like, I don't see this distinct separation. They start mixing in the beliefs and attitudes into one question. Gets really confusing for jurors, right? So you want to separate it out probably into 2 or 3 different questions. And then when you strike gold, which is somebody that's negative, because that's what's going to kill your case, that's when you look at the others and go, hey, thank you. Anybody else feel like this? And you're like, from a, if you're building your cause challenges or you're creating your peremptory strike list, right? This is what's going to give you really, really good information. Really, really good information. Okay? All right. That's enough for today. Litigation Psychology Podcast brought to you by Courtroom Sciences. I am Dr. Bill Kanasky. We'll see you next time.